Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD Relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about PMDD is not me. So many times in our relationships and our life and journey with PMDD, we tend to identify ourselves as everything is my PMDD and my PMDD and my relationship and my PMDD partner, and everything that goes on in our lives becomes about PMDD so much that even when we're in our follicular days and we're in our good days and we're supposed to be enjoying life outside of having PMDD symptoms, we're constantly thinking about PMDD as if it defines us. And that really affects how we show up in our relationships, because when we accept this identity of PMDD and all the negative things that are associated with PMDD, we begin to think, even in our good days, we are this horrible person. And it makes it really, really hard for us to enjoy our follicular days. So I really thought about this because now I'm in my follicular days and I'm supposed to be enjoying my life. And I found that earlier in my journey, when I first started tracking PMDD and what it was and what it meant for my life, that I just found it really hard to be in my good days and still kind of identify and associate myself with PMDD, because having PMDD is like having two separate personalities. And I'm such a positive person when I'm in my follicular phase and I'm not complaining about anything, but it seems like as soon as PMDD comes, I'm complaining about everything. And so I was really struggling with navigating these two different personalities because I wanted to be true to myself. So early in my journey, what I used to do was when I got into PMDD, I would almost pretend like I wasn't in PMDD. And I would just I would hold everything in because I wanted to be that positive person. I wanted to be that person that I was in my follicular days when I didn't have PMDD. I didn't want to be who I was when I had PMDD, so I wouldn't complain. And my partner would notice, aren't you in PMDD? And I would just be like, oh, I'm fine. Everything's great. And I would be lying to myself. And it was actually causing me more suffering to not just admit that I was having a horrible day, to not just vocalize, hey, I'm thinking these negative thoughts. I want to do these negative things. I want to say these negative things because I'm in this really, really dark place. And I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to be at peace. I didn't want to be known for this person who had PMDD. I didn't want this label on me of oh, she has PMDD, so she's this horrible person. I wanted to be the happy person. I wanted to be the person that I was when PMDD didn't exist. And so my partner, when you're in an intimate relationship, they can tell when you're, I don't want to say being fake, but they can tell when you're masking what's really going on with you. And that's what was happening with my partner, where he was calling me out on oh, you just don't seem like yourself. And I started to argue with him because I'm no, I am being myself. You're the one that's, not understanding, what's going on with me. And I just remember wanting to not identify myself with PMDD. I didn't want to see anything that had to do with it. So because he was the one that was bringing it up, he became the enemy, and we had all of these arguments about me and PMDD. And I literally just said to him, I yelled to him one day, I am not PMDD. PMDD is not me. And he was like, what does that even mean? And I said, I'm going to live my life from now on with PMDD as something that I'm experiencing, but it's not me. It doesn't define me. There's so many other amazing things about me that has nothing to do with PMDD. And I don't want that PMDD stamp on me, because it was really damaging my self-worth and how I looked at myself and what I had accomplished. And self-worth is all about believing that you have value as a person. And it's not how you compare yourself to other people who don't have PMDD, but it's like recognizing that you're valuable as a person. And having PMDD it has a way of making you not show your true value. It diminishes your value in your mind. You think you're less than, you think you're worth less because you have PMDD. And so it's your belief in your intrinsic value as a human being, and just really recognizing that we're all important. And some of us just have a lot more difficulties than others, but that doesn't make us less important because I have PMDD. And so the first thing, I'm going to share these PMDD trauma transformational tools with you, because I really want to let you know that I identify with having my self-worth questioned every single month when I go into PMDD and I have brain fog and I can't say the things and do the things that I would normally do when I'm in my follicular phase. And it makes me question, who I am, my self-worth, my value. And then I either have one or two things happen in my relationship. I either have myself trying to prove myself and exhausting myself by trying to do all of these things that I really don't feel capable of doing in the moment, as a way of proving to, my partner or my children. That's my dog yelling out the window. But it is a way of proving to everyone that, like, hey, I can do these things. And what I end up doing is exhausting myself, because I feel like I need to do more than I feel like I'm capable of doing, because I'm in PMDD, and I'm not even wanting to admit it to my partner, where he's like, hey, are you in PMDD? I'm like, no. So it's a matter of, I'm first getting into PMDD, and I'm getting into that moment of like knowing that I'm closing in on it, and I'm not wanting to admit it. I'm kind of wanting to prolong the inevitable. Like, I'm feeling the symptoms of PMDD, but I'm like, no, I'm having this complaint. I'm complaining about this thing because I genuinely care about this thing. Like, I'm trying not to tie anything that I'm going through to PMDD, even if I'm feeling the symptoms, because I just don't like being in that place where I have valid thoughts, valid feelings, and valid concerns, but everything's put into the box of, oh, you're just saying that because you're in PMDD. And I just feel invalidated, and I feel like less than a human, like, oh, okay, well, then I'm second guessing myself. And I'm like, am I thinking this because I'm in PMDD, or is this something that's genuinely bothering me? And so my self-worth is all of a sudden in question, and it's blurred lines between what's PMDD and what's really me. Because I had to accept the fact that I have PMDD, but it doesn't define me. My reflection in the mirror is not, I'm Rose and I have PMDD. It's just, I'm Rose and you're you outside of PMDD. And when you take the label of PMDD off of you, you're going to be capable of doing so much more. But if you put the label of PMDD on you, then you're limiting everything that you're doing, because you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, but I can only do this much because I have PMDD. Don't put that label on you, and because subconsciously you're giving yourself permission to do less than what you're capable of doing. Like I was talking to a client today and she was like, I'm a CEO, I'm a boss, I'm all these things. But when I get home, I feel like I'm mom with PMDD. I'm wife with PMDD. So I operate accordingly. Whereas if you're not employee with PMDD, you're operating at a level that's higher than people who don't have PMDD. Like we're capable of so much without that label. PMDD is an experience that we're having. It's not an identification of who we are. And when you begin to shift that mindset, when you can feel yourself shifting into that, oh, I can't do that because I have PMDD, you're counting yourself out because the majority of you were living your life before you were diagnosed, before you were self-diagnosed with PMDD, doing way more than you do right now. And PMDD has given you a permission to lessen your efforts, your contribution to your family, to work because you have this disorder. And I'm here to tell you, you can do a lot. I know that you can do a lot, even though you have PMDD. And not doing a lot in a way that you're burning yourself out. It's just your capability level is way higher than you're giving yourself credit for. And one of the reasons why we tend to diminish our self-worth because we have PMDD is because of all of the horrible things that we've done. So we automatically have to acknowledge the fact that we have PMDD because we've done horrible things, and we have to have something to pin that to. Like I said those things that were below the belt. I did those things that were below the belt because I have PMDD. And that's a comfortable place to be because it's like, oh, I have something to attach my negative actions to. But in turn, that label is causing me to show up differently. Like having PMDD causes you to show up differently to your family because you're like, I can only do this much because I have PMDD. Versus before you were diagnosed, you were pushing yourself to do things further than what you felt like doing because you didn't know what was really going on. So I'm not saying that you need to go back to that place of disillusionment or that place of like, oh, I'm so delusional. I don't know what's going on with me. So I'm just going to keep burning myself out and trying to act at a level that I'm not currently feeling. But it's like, hey, when you feel yourself wanting to go down a notch, think, can I make it to this level? Can I do a little bit more? Just ask yourself that question because you're going to be proud of yourself as you're living up to that level or close to that level that you are when you're not in PMDD. And the first part about reframing your mind about who you are in conjunction with PMDD is to forgive yourself. So we can all have plenty of guilt and resentment towards having PMDD. And we've carried that around for years, for months, however long we've had it. And you just have to forgive yourself for all of the things that you've done while you've been in PMDD. And just tell yourself, I did that because I was in pain, hurt people, and give yourself permission to make mistakes when you're trying to navigate PMDD in your relationship. And you may not have handled every situation with your relationship in a good way, but that's okay because you're just learning. There's no blueprint for it. There's no right or wrong. You're just knowing what works and what doesn't work. You don't repeat the things that don't work, and you repeat the things that do work. And the next thing is avoid gossiping. Avoid talking about your PMDD symptoms so much that you're only talking about negative things when you're in PMDD. And even in your good days where you're only complaining, you have those friends where they want to hear you complain, but they don't want to hear about you doing well because they feel comfortable with you complaining because it's in alignment with what they have going on in their life. They're wanting to complain, so you're complaining, and nobody's talking about anything positive. And then the next thing you know, you're in this rabbit hole of thinking your whole life sucks when it may not suck, right? PMDD does suck. Absolutely. We can talk about it all day long. As you know, I'm on Instagram at In Love with PMDD, and I spent about 2 to 3 hours a day just in my inbox, talking to you, replying to you, just talking about PMDD and the journey, and just recognizing that it's hard. But then also, I am empowering you to understand that you've gone through this month after month after month, and you're still in your relationship, and you're still trying to see what works, and you're still trying to repair all the damage. So it's not about just talking about how much it sucks. It's always talking about how far you've come. What have you done that's worked? And you have to congratulate yourself for that. Give yourself some credit. Don't just think that you're just struggling along and you're just barely making it. You're doing more than people who don't have PMDD do. You're functioning as a partner, as a spouse, as an employee, as a mom. And there's people that don't have PMDD and they're having to do the same things, and you're doing it with it. And I have people in my life, and I'm pretty sure you have people in your life who don't even know that you have PMDD. Because you can pick and choose who you tell about your disorder. So if you don't tell certain people that you have this disorder, I bet you they won't know. Yeah, they'll think you may be moody or snappy or, introverted or extroverted during certain periods of time, but they're not going to relate that to, oh, you have this disorder. It is your choice. And how you choose to present yourself is how people will receive you. So if you present yourself as, hey, I'm just me, I could be like, hey, I'm just Rose. I'm coming to this party. Nobody at this party knows I have PMDD. They're not going to be like, oh, I'm glad that you came because I know it's a lot for you because you have PMDD. They're just going to be like, oh, I'm glad you came. And sometimes we need that break. I have a group of friends who don't know that I have PMDD. We have a group of couple friends that we hang out with that don't know I have PMDD, and he has the symptoms of being with someone who has PMDD, just so we can have that sense of normality. We can go and we can hang out without everyone making it about PMDD. PMDD is not me. PMDD is not my partner. PMDD is not us. It is something that we're experiencing. It is something that we're fighting through every single month, but it doesn't define our relationship and who we are as individuals within the relationship. And I want you to begin to face some of your fears. This is another way to increase your self-worth when you have PMDD. We're all scared of certain things. And the thing that we're all scared of the most is the next month of PMDD. We're always thinking it's going to be worse than what it is. And our actions show that. We're starting to overthink certain things. We're starting to think our partner, is mad at us when they're not really mad at us. We're starting to overthink whether we're a good PMDD partner, whether we have a good PMDD partner, whether we're going to make it. We question all these things about our relationship because we know PMDD is coming, and we're like, are we strong enough to handle this? Am I strong enough to handle this? Are you strong enough to handle this? And we're coming into PMDD with all these doubts and fears, and your fears will start to manifest themselves if we don't take control of them. What you fear is going to persist in your life. So what you resist will persist. So if you're starting to pull back on certain things because you're scared of what it's going to look like in your relationship, it's probably going to show up because what you focus on is going to show up in your life. So if you're focused on a fear, it's actually going to show up. So where you think that, oh, it's a good thing that I'm fearing this because I'm being extra cautious. It's no, because then when it happens, how can you even fault it for happening when you've been focusing on it this whole time? And so a way to get rid of the fears about PMDD coming and what this month is going to be like is to set personal boundaries and enforce them when you're in PMDD. So you don't have to allow your partner to use you or manipulate you or, show, unreasonable behavior. You can actually say, this is what's working for me and this is what's not working for me. So many times we get in these situations where we don't really want to complain to our partner about what's working and what's not working. But then when we wing it, when we choose to just ignore it, hey, I don't want to bring it up, I'm just going to wing it and see what happens, then it ends up blowing up in our face. So after the last blowout with my PMDD partner, when he came home and we had that blowout and he ended up leaving, when he wanted to come visit this next week, I was like, well, what is the plan? Like, what is the plan for that not to happen again? Because I'm not going to just wing it and think that if I do the same thing, that I'm going to get a different outcome. That's the definition of insanity. So if I know in my PMDD relationship, certain things haven't worked, I'm going to place a boundary and say, I'm not going to allow this to happen again, because I know for sure that it doesn't work. I know for sure that it led to PMDD rage. I know for sure that because you feel this certain way, that if you're put back in the circumstance, you're going to react the same way. And you don't want to set your partner up for failure. So what I do with all my private PMDD clients is, when we notice that there's certain situations that haven't worked out well, I notate them down and I say, in the future, these are things that we're avoiding of happening again, so that you don't have the same blowups. And so that you're not constantly like, oh, this is a PMDD relationship. Oh, we want to do this in our relationship, but we have to be wary of PMDD. It's like, don't let PMDD consume your relationship. Don't let PMDD consume your partner, and don't let PMDD consume you. You have to have things outside of PMDD in order for your relationship to be enjoyable. In order for you to enjoy your follicular phase, you can't constantly be thinking about your luteal phase and the last argument and blow up and fight that you had. You have to set goals of having a very healthy, supportive PMDD month, a healthy, supportive PMDD partner. And when you're setting goals that you can achieve, be specific with what that looks like. Don't just say you need to be a good PMDD partner and then expect your partner to even know what that means. It's like, okay, I'm willing to be a good PMDD partner for you. What does that look like? Take the time to write down, what does a good PMDD partner look like? What does that mean for me? And communicate to your partner and explain to them one by one. Even if it's the 6 things, these are the 6 things that I need during PMDD in order for you to be a good PMDD partner for me. And then I want you to think about things that you can do, even as a sufferer, to be a good PMDD partner. And let them tell you, okay, I can do those things for you. And these are the things that I need. Because when you shut down communication with your partner and you're no longer listening to their needs are still there. They're just scared to tell you because they feel, I remember one time my partner said, I didn't feel comfortable with telling you what was going on with me in work, or I didn't feel comfortable with telling you what was going on with me in my life because I knew that you already had a lot of stuff going on and I didn't want to dump that on you. And I was like, no, like I always want to know what's going on with you. Like, even if I'm in a bad place, I still want to know what's going on with you. And they were just like, no, they just didn't feel comfortable telling me because they didn't feel like I could handle it. Like PMDD made me this porcelain doll that was going to break at any moment. And I'm like, I've had PMDD for 16 years. If I was going to break, I would have broke by now. And I want you to tell that to yourself. If you were going to break, you would have broke by now, and you haven't. As broken as you have felt, you're still here. Therefore, you can handle a lot. And the next thing I want you to do is define your values within your relationship and begin to live by them. So you need to tell your partner, and for your partner to tell you, this is what I'm willing to do in my PMDD relationship. This is what I'm not willing to do. And let whatever you say be okay, and whatever your partner says to also be okay. And then if you begin to live by those boundaries and those values, then you're not going to feel bad about yourself if you're not doing certain things that you already agreed were not in alignment with your values. So put it on paper and then make a list and just print it out somewhere, write it out somewhere, post it somewhere so that you always can see every single day. These are my values. Let all of your actions stem through that. This is what's important to me. I'm only going to do things that are in alignment with the things that are important to me. I'm going to support everything that's important to my partner. I'm going to do things that are in alignment with what is important to my partner. And with that process, you have to be willing to make some changes in your life. And it may be some inconveniences where it's like, I don't really feel like doing this, but this is what my partner needs, so I'm going to do it anyway. being in a relationship is very selfless. It's not always about what we feel, even though we're the ones who have PMDD and our feelings are basically, seemingly ruining our life, because it's like, I feel like this one minute and the next minute I feel like this. Even though we're feeling certain ways, we have the power to choose what we do with those feelings. I felt triggered sometimes and not reacted to a trigger. I've shocked myself because I remember there was a point in time where I didn't even try. Like, I was triggered and I immediately reacted. I felt PMDD rage and I immediately reacted. But I want to let you know, PMDD rage comes when you've been triggered again and again and again. You're holding it in, and then it eventually comes out. PMDD rage doesn't automatically come out after one time that you're offended. One bad comment, one time you're offended, and then bam, it's PMDD rage. It's, my partner made this comment, it really offended me, but that's okay. I'm going to deal with it because I don't want to be labeled as being like the angry PMDD person. So I'm not going to bring it up. Then they say another thing. Then they do another thing, all geared towards that initial thing that triggered you. And then you can't take it anymore and you blow up and you don't care about who's around. So it's like, what was the point of holding it in that whole time if you're going to eventually blow it out of proportion and blow up on the other person? And so the next thing is, make sure that you're voicing your opinion. Even if you think that your partner doesn't care, even if you think that your partner doesn't agree, make sure you're voicing it, because the more that you bottle things up, the more PMDD rage is going to come, the more you're going to be triggered. So it's very important that you understand that your opinions matter. I don't care if you're in PMDD and it sounds weird when you're trying to articulate it and you can't quite get your words out right, or it doesn't sound as smart as it does when you're not in PMDD. Just get it out. Like, the goal is not for you to give a full-on Grammy speech in front of thousands of people. The goal is for you to get it out and for you to feel heard, valued, and understood. And then the next thing is, I want you to minimize time spent with people who don't care about your relationship, who don't appreciate your relationship. So if you have a friend or a family member and you're going through this really hard time with your self-worth, don't spend the time that you do have with people that are bashing your partner, that are people that are bashing your relationship, telling you to break up, telling you you deserve better, telling you all these things that are going to make you run away from your partner. If you know that this is the person that you're really supposed to be with, don't allow them to do that, because it's going to get in your head and it's going to make you really confused. And at the end of the day, you're the only one that has to be in a relationship with this person. Everybody else can have an opinion about what's going on in your relationship, what you did do, what you didn't do, all the things. But the only one that should matter is the person that you're in the relationship with, your actual partner. So in order to reduce frustration and stress, then take complete control about the thoughts that you act on. Not saying that you're not going to have negative thoughts, but you're like, I'm choosing of which thoughts I'm going to act on. You can have positive thoughts in a day, you can have negative thoughts in a day, and it's your choice, because you have free will of which ones that you're going to actually listen to and follow. And if you're in a place where you're wanting more positive thoughts, you're wanting to get out of that negative space, the only way to do that is through action. So think of things that you enjoy doing. I know I've had so many clients where they play golf, they play tennis, they go to sports games, they do different things that take them out of the mindset of the torture and the misery that they're going through from either being in PMDD or having a PMDD partner. They do something about it and it makes them feel more in control of their life, instead of feeling like, I'm waking up today and whatever PMDD wants me to do, I'm going to do. Because when you start thinking negatively about yourself, you lower your expectations. And then with lower expectations, you have lower behavior. So you begin to even look for a reason to support those negative thoughts. And this is when you get into that self-defeating behavior. And you're not going to be happy and you're not going to be successful, because you're constantly going to be thinking about what you didn't do, what you could have done better, instead of thinking about what you have done and what you're planning on doing and what that's going to look like. You're going to be way more proud of yourself if you focus on what you can do in PMDD versus focusing on the things that you cannot do in PMDD. And you're going to make your life more enjoyable by really understanding that PMDD is not your identity. You are not PMDD. PMDD is an experience that you're having, but that doesn't define who you are. You got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.